We're saying that today we're going to finish this part of the Emet, and when I finish today, I want to give you a few halachic decisions that has to do with Emet and Sheker, the practical halacha, how a person should deal with circumstances that comes our way. Is one allowed to lie, or should you say the Emet? Should you, or things that possibly you are allowed to not to change from the truth. Come and see how much Chachamim they cared about the Midat Emet. And Dina B'Yevamot, Sechet Yevamot, the Gemara says, Rabbi comes to Bitu. Rabbi, the wife that really was bothering him very much. Every time he said to Yomala Abidili Talfuche Abdallah Chimsi Abdallah Talfuche. When he said to her, please make me lintels, he made kitniot, right? He made something else. When he told her, make me chimsi, he made telpchem. Whatever he said, she did the opposite. When Chia, the son of Rab, grew up, he said, I know what to do, right? Right, I want you to go to your mother and tell her to make me lintels. And he knew that when he goes to his mother and tells her to make lintels, she's not going to make lintels, she's going to make something else. He turned it around. Every time his father said to him, go tell your mother to make you lintels, he went and said, make my father kitniot. Then he knew that that's what she's going to do. It changed everything, right? So now his father, Rab, said to him, even though that you have a good idea, what you're doing is a good idea, but you are not allowed to do that because of sheker. When you go tell her to make kitniot, but you really don't want kitniot, you want adashim, is a sheker. Now he said, "V'kashe ech lo ala b'da'at Rav la'asot ken at sheshama mibeno v'alo davar pashutu." Why didn't Rav do the same thing? It's a good idea. He knew the trick. Why didn't he do that? צריך לומר, דרב היה מושרש כל כך במידת האמת, שלא עלה בדעתו כלל שאפשר לשנות מהאמת. Because Rav was so involved with truth, with emet, that never even came to his mind to change it. והשם יתברך עשינו משפת שקר משון רמייה, וינכם לדרך בדרך האמת. And that's what is finishes with this. Rav Chaim Kanievsky finishes with this phrase. Now I want to talk about a few different questions that comes up. One, a lot of times you have a child. The child comes up to you and you want him to do something. Said, eat your supper. If you eat your supper, I'll give you $5. Right? And you then just tricking him. It's a sheker. It's asur to do that. If you are not going to keep your promise to the child, you are not allowed to promise empty promises. It's sheker. Or you're telling him, if you get an A, I'm going to take you to here and there, and he gets A, comes home, says, no, that's not what I meant. You are not allowed to do that. You are not allowed to play games, even children, even 2-year-old. Once you tell them something, you have to keep the word up to the teeth, and you have to take them seriously. That's what they meant. Another scenario would be, a lot of times people sit in the shul, and they sell aliyot. And you want to jack up the prices. And this guy says $1,000, right? He doesn't mean to give $1,000. He just says it because he wants the prices to go up. If you don't have in mind to pay $1,000, it's a sheker to do that, it's a sur to do that. The Teshuvah from Minchat Yitzchak clearly that one that jack up prices and they have no avamina, they have no intention to pay the money, that's considered a sheker, and one is not allowed to do that. Another thing is, what about if a person wants to trick somebody to do the mitzvah? Let's say you go to somebody and say, listen, come put on tefillin. If you go put on tefillin, I'll take you out for lunch. You have no intention of taking for lunch, but you want him to do the mitzvah. The question is, are you allowed to do that because you want to mezakeh somebody to do the mitzvah? That's not clear as a machloket. Some say because you want to mezakeh somebody, want to help somebody to do the mitzvah, you are allowed to get him into doing the mitzvah, even though that causes that, but a lot of poskim hold, that's also asur, one is not allowed to do that. There's a very interesting story about Chafetz Chaim. Chafetz Chaim, he had people came to him all the time to borrow money from him. But the people that borrowed money from Chofetz Chaim, they were people that they weren't paying back. Sometimes they paid back, sometimes they didn't pay back. But when they came to Chofetz Chaim and he had the money at home, he didn't want to tell them I don't have the money because he had the money. At the same time, he didn't want to give them the money either because if he gives them the money, he's never going to see the money back. Let's say somebody comes up and says, can you lend me $5? You know if you lend him $5, you are not going to see the money. Are you allowed to say, I don't have $5, I don't have money? Right? That's the question. The Chofetz Chaim, what he did, he did a kinyan, all his money to somebody else. This way, when he said, I don't have money, that meant he really doesn't have money. He made a kinyan. He gave all his money away to somebody else. Right? That's the way Chofetz Chaim did, and that would be the best way a person could deal with situations like this. And also we say that mutar leshanot mipnei ashalom. That's also a very interesting phrase in halacha, that you are allowed to change because of shalom. That halacha is, unfortunately, is taken very lightly. People think for any inyan of shalom, a person is allowed to lie. That's not true. It has to be surba darabanan. The people that are doing it, they have to take isur emet v'sheker very seriously, and then they could deal with this halacha. But if they are not zahir, they are not careful, and not to lie, and they are not careful to say emet all the time, forget about shalom, for any reason, then you are allowed to change mipnei shalom. Another scenario that people they talk about is shidduchim, right? They say you are allowed to leshanot mipnei shidduchim. That also depends. What kind of a shaker you are saying? Let's say somebody comes up to you and says, how old is she? How old is the girl that you're reading for me? She is, let's say, 35 years old. You say, I think it's 25 years old. That's a shaker. You understand? Sometimes they want to sell a good, and they sell they lie because they want to sell the good to somebody. That's also another problem. Even though the Rav Steipler Gaon said up to 10 years it could make it higher or lower, that this today, Bisman Hazeh, doesn't work, because if somebody is really makpid and you lie to them, and based on that they get married, it could be a mekach ta'ud, could be she'el on the kiddushin bichlal. If you lie and based on your words, somebody gets married.